This is Amplify You, the podcast about you discovering your message and broadcasting it to the world. If you're a coach, author, or speaker, you'll want to tune in. If you're looking for the best return on your time investment to get your message out to the world in a bigger way, we're giving you full access and behind the scenes look of how we're running our podcast, how our clients have found success, and what you can do to launch your podcast today. The world needs your message. I'm Michelle Abraham, the host. Join my family as we unleash your unique genius and find the connections you need to launch your adventure today. Join us and let's get amplified. Hello, Amplify You family. Michelle Abraham, your host today. I'm so excited. We get to bring on my friend Hester. Hey, Heather, how are you?
Hello, Michelle. How are you? It's good to be here.
So great to be here. So Heather is one of our seven-figure podcasters in the program that Evans and I teach. And she's also one of our podcast management clients. And I'm so excited to share with you behind the mic today all about her podcast. Her podcast is called Just Breathe, Parenting Your LGBTQ Teen. I finally got it right. All those letters together mess me up. Those letters mess me up all the time. And just love Heather's podcast so much. And a big congratulations to her because she was just featured in Podcast Magazine as well. There was a write-up about her podcast. Just happened to be Paris Hilton on the cover of the magazine that month. So how cool is that? You have an article in the magazine that Paris Hilton was on too.
Very cool.
Yes, so cool. So I want to start with your podcasting journey. So let's take a dive back into when you started your show. Let's just put it this way. Your show is doing very, very well. You've gotten download numbers that are great. You're in the flow of it. People are recognizing your show, starting to build a community from your show. Take us back to why you started it.
So, the simple answer to that is I wanted to reach more people with my message. And I was actually on vacation and I was reading an article about somebody that I really admired, and they were talking about their podcast. And I was like, oh, podcast, that's a really good idea. I should start a podcast. And so I took a class when I got home, this 6-week class on how to start a podcast. And I just did it. I just put it together and launched it. And I will tell you that is not my typical way of doing anything. It's maybe one of the few things in my life that I've been I didn't overthink, because I overthink everything. And so the fact that I just put it out there and then, figured out as I went along, figured it out. And one of my favorite things, so first of all, wish I would have known about you 2.5 years ago when I did this, because
we're here now. It's okay. Yeah.
God, I will tell you, it's just so lovely in so many ways, because I edited my own show. I did everything with my show for the first 2 years. Mm-hmm. And, really good to learn all of that, but also super time consuming.
Right.
So,
and the fact that you made it through 2 years doing that yourself is really something to be proud of, because I think a lot of people, that's where the pod fade comes in, right? They stop after 20 episodes, like, this is too much work. Oh my God, I'm done.
Right. Well, and I think I might have, the only reason I didn't do that is because I really was having so much fun. I still am having so much fun. I really love podcasting. Right. Which surprised me. I didn't realize I didn't think I would love it as much, because I'm not an extrovert. Mm-hmm. I'm an introverted, extroverted introvert. That's
yeah, I'm the same too. Extroverted, introvert. Yeah.
So that's not my natural place of being, but I was kind of struck by how much fun I found it to be. And I loved meeting all these people who just knew so much about my topic. So
yeah, that's so cool. And just to put it in perspective too, Heather's podcast is a global ranking of 2% on Listen Notes, which means out of 2.8 million podcasts, she sits in the top 2% of all podcasts out there. So that is also something to be proud of, which is awesome.
It is. When you first told me that, I was like, no way. There's no way. I mean, that just blew me away, but it also, it gives me the strength to keep doing this because I know that it's, people are getting something from this and people are listening and it is, doing what I set out to do. So.
Yeah. And speaking of which, I mean, I feel like your podcast, one of the things that makes it do well is that you have like a movement that you're creating really from your show. And, you are a fearless coming out coach, which I love. That's so cool. And your podcast has got some really unique features to it, including your kids. So I would love for you to just kind of share with us like how that kind of started and what's the movement and the bigger message that you are creating with the podcast as a vehicle.
So I think one of the lovely things about me not really knowing what I was doing is that I didn't really adhere to pay attention to any of the rules or the talk that was out there. So, I pretty quickly, because my show is about, parenting your LGBTQ kid, and I talk very much about our journey and everything that we've learned along the way. And of course, we are still on our journey. So it's ever evolving. And, I brought my son Connor on, who is this kid I talk about, and he's been on several times. And so kind of adding that kid element, I've had my daughter Grace on, I've had my husband on. And so there's very much this super personal element to it. I think also I really talk about it kind of this is the way it is. Here's the way it is. And which is rather refreshing. And
you're vulnerable and really real. And I think your audience really relates to that too. And especially I love Connor's episodes, one of my most favorite podcast episodes I've ever listened to. He's so real and sharing his journey and what he wants parents to know, what he was going through, what maybe your kids want you to know. And I think that's such a cool, kind of a different twist on just you sharing other experts and their expert advice. Here's a kid that actually just went through this and has come through the ups and downs of it all. And now he's sharing his story with the kids and the parents to inspire them. It's so awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that has been, those were some of my favorite episodes too. And they are just, of course, when you can feel very vulnerable and you can be really real, that's really, and people connect with that, is awesome. And when I started, I didn't, I had no idea where this was all going to go. I didn't start it with this plan of this is what I want to, the movement I want to create. So it's been very organic in the way that it has kind of developed along the way. And now I have a much more clear vision of, this is what we can do in the world. This isn't just, I want to help, 20 parents out there. This is, we can do this. And that's pretty cool. So it's definitely, one of my things that I always say is, it's changing the conversation and, transforming that conversation and having that conversation. So,
I love that. Yeah. And what's really cool too, I remember you saying that you're getting not just the parents who you thought you were talking to, but also the kids reaching out and saying oh, thank you for sharing this, giving them the confidence also, which is so cool.
Oh my gosh. It's so cool. Every time, a kid reaches out in some way, I'm always oh, yay. And it also makes me feel okay, I'm doing something right. This is connecting in a way that not only are parents connecting to it, but kids are connecting to it. And they're really what they're connecting to, of course, is Connor and Grace when she came on and just the information that we're putting out there, which is, very inclusive and very educational. intentional in a way that's not judgmental, that's not shameful, it's very loving. And so that's kind of our whole thing.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, it's really great. And so now you also have a little bit of a different cadence on your show than a lot of shows out there. And it's something that, I think a lot of people recommend against doing about only having a show like every other week. But you found your show's obviously grown really great. You haven't found that that's been a hindrance at all to your growth, what's your thoughts on the cadence of the show?
I initially did that every other Tuesday is when I post. And I did that because it was just me, or it is just me. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, this is what I can handle doing. And I didn't want to, overpromise and underdeliver. So I thought, well, this is something I can manage all on my own. And I've been, and I've also been very consistent. I've only taken breaks around, the Christmas holidays. So I think that's been a big piece. Would I like to do it every week? Yes, absolutely. And that's something
so fun.
Right. Because it's so much fun. And it's just, it's such a lovely way to connect with other people, but
there's never a shortage of people either, right? That, I'm sure the floodgates have opened to people that want to connect with you and want to be on your show, be a part of your show, or promote your show, be in your program or in your community. It's been really cool.
It's been very, very cool. And my list is getting longer and longer. So I have people that I want to interview and who want to be on the show. And then I also have my list of solo topics that keeps growing, that I'm like, oh, I really want to talk about this. And oh, I really want to talk about this. So yes, I'm working toward that every week, which I think will be huge for growth. But right now, I have seen consistent, steady growth every month since I started. So that has, for anybody who is thinking, oh, I can only do that.
Right.
It's okay. Once you're consistent.
Yeah. And you're starting to get clients now into your business from your podcast, into your community, which is huge. And so I wanted to bring that up because this is not a how to make money kind of business podcast, right? This is in a space that is not a money making or teach you how to make money kind of space, where I think a lot of people may think, well, my podcast is in spirituality or in parenting, or, that won't work for me to be able to monetize my show eventually. But that's not really the case, right?
It is not. And this is something that I've definitely learned from you and Evans, because I did think that. And I thought, well, my show is just for fun. It's for fun. And it's just for education, right? Or just for there to be another support piece. But really what I've learned from you all is that by doing this, this is kind of like that first piece of connection. So the people that I am now working with, and, who I will work with down the road, can initially connect with me in their way by listening to my podcast. So that is a very powerful point of connection.
Right.
That I was not even realizing before.
Especially with your, typically the listeners that might not be ready to talk can listen to you for a long time. And consume all of your episodes. And then it's no longer a sales conversation. It's just like, okay, you're my coach, let's go.
Right. That's exactly right. So it takes away that sales piece, really, and it allows people to kind of get to know you and their time. So any of these other spaces that aren't directly sales related or making money related, or, kind of in a marketing place, this is a great way to make that connection with your ideal client.
Yeah, for sure. Interesting. The other interesting thing I think about your show, and letting people know that you're available also to be hired, right? That's something I think we forget sometimes as hosts, to share with the audience that they can come into our world and can work with us.
Yes. And that has been, it has been something that has been a transition for me, because that is not at all how I started. And I was actually I interviewed the other day a guy who was just now starting his podcast. And that was the advice I gave him, because he's a coach. And I was like, from day one, let people know they can work with you, because otherwise one of my big mistakes, and I didn't realize this at the time, but now I'm having to kind of do extra work because I trained everybody to just think that, I have the podcast, I have the website, I have all these things that I'm not necessarily
free resources.
Correct. All free resources as opposed to, this is my business also. Right. This is what I do. And, this is how I make money also. Right. So it's that whole piece of kind of shifting the mindset, which you've helped me do so much, like shifting my mindset to being that like very heart-centered entrepreneur where those pieces can work together. So
it's been really cool to see also you start connecting with other people in your space. And like now you're starting to build this little bit of leadership within your space amongst other people who are doing similar kinds of things to you. And it's like really great to see those connections being made. And like, it's that the growth of the network too. And the networking, I think that is really neat to see that growth that you're experiencing.
Yes. And that was something that I was a little timid to step into for a while. And now it's fun and it's interesting, and I always learn something. And it's just a kind of a great way, not only to exchange information, but to really support each other in what you're doing.
Yeah. And like the collaborations and like even some of the bigger associations wanting to, have you come in for workshops or, starting to do things like in a bigger connection collaboration way too is super fun.
It is.
It's so cool about having a podcast, right? It gives you that leverage and that opportunity for people to hear all about you and learn about you before you actually, before they connect and then invite you to do things with them.
Right. Well, it allows you to develop credibility in a very unique way. And so, and I think in a way that's not scary or right in your face. It's just, there it is.
Awesome. I love it. Well, I wish we could keep you here longer to chat more, but we'll have to bring you back again. But I want to know before we let you go, what is something that you want our podcasters who are at home right now, maybe still thinking about doing a podcast? What do you want them to know?
Oh my goodness, just do it. Just stop thinking about it. Don't overthink it. And it doesn't matter. I think one of the things Michelle always says that is so true, that, if you're not embarrassed of your first 4 episodes, then you're doing something wrong. So don't try to, done is better than perfect. Just get it out there and go with it and have fun with it, because it's fun.
That's right. You waited too damn long to put them out there. Always perfection comes along the way, right?
That's right. I still don't have it perfect. I'm 2.5 years. So.
And it's neither do I. And it's still the most favorite thing I do in my business.
Hands down, for sure. Yes.
Right, exactly. Well, Heather, thank you so much for being here with us. Amplify You family. Go out there, have an amazing day. And if you haven't started your podcast, why not get out there, start your podcast? Remember, if you're not embarrassed by your first few episodes, you waited too long to get them out there. So just go and do it like Heather says. All right. We'll talk to you guys again next week.
Thank you.
Bye, Heather.